super excited. I want to say welcome to the Millennial Curator Podcast. I am joined by someone that I would say I look up to. Someone that I would look to as a mentor, someone that I look to as a friend, also as a colleague. Her name is Lauren Taylor, but she goes by LT. Recently married as well, but we will get into all of that. Super excited. Lauren, are you there? Can we hear you?
I am here. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you so much for joining us. So Lauren is the Vice President of an Advisor, Diversity and Inclusion for an industry-leading financial services firm. I'm super excited to have her, pick her brain, and share some thoughts and just share some insight with us. So you want to go ahead and just jump right in? All right. So Lauren, first off, before we get started, just tell everybody about yourself. I mentioned that you're recently married, and I'm calling you Lauren Taylor, so I may be using the wrong name. So if I am, this is the perfect opportunity to correct me.
Yeah, so Lauren Taylor Riley now. I adopted a new last name in the past little over a month. So yeah,
okay,
new addition.
So it's Lauren Taylor Riley. So did you put the hyphen on the end? You didn't drop the Taylor?
Middle name is my maiden name is now my middle name.
Okay, I like that. I like that. My wife, she attempted that. Yep. It was a fail.
I thought about going the forward name route, but that just seemed very complicated, filling out paperwork and things of that nature. So we're just rolling with the Lauren Taylor Riley right now.
I like it. So is it okay still to call you LT throughout the day? Is that fine? We're good with that. All right. Awesome. Yeah, awesome. So before we jump into our first topic, and I wanted to kind of talk to you about this because we're both classified as millennials, right? So with you being a millennial, how do you feel, being in the financial services industry, but being a millennial, being a Black woman?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers there, right?
Let's unpack it.
So let's just take it. Let's just take it one by one. So being a millennial, now that I'm inching toward my mid-30s, it feels a little bit different than it did, obviously, when I started my career about a decade ago. Mm-hmm. There was a big element of wanting to prove myself and, being the youngest in the room a lot of times, or the only woman or the only Black person, and definitely many times the only Black woman. It's just that additional level of pressure to perform and even outperform peers, even those who you may report up to, because it's always ingrained in your mind that you have to be better, do better, and take additional steps to differentiate yourself from those who are around you, just to stay competitive. So I spent a lot of my early career trying to fit into those norms, mm-hmm. But now it's quite the opposite. I feel like I have begun to pay my dues in a regard and establish a brand to the point where I feel like I have a little bit more flexibility and ability to show individuality and bring all those facets of my personality to the work, which I think enhances the work at the end of the day, but it's definitely not something that I had the same level of comfort with when I started out 10 years ago.
I like it. I like it a lot. So we mentioned now, Lauren Taylor Riley, that you are married, right? So we're going to jump right into our first subject, right? So I titled this one, Marriage Isn't for Everybody, but I Know It Was for Me. Okay? So let me unpack that one a little bit, okay? So with yourself and being, again, a woman in, the financial services industry and corporate, quote unquote, corporate America, I always see on TV and movies, there's always like that woman, that Black woman or that woman themselves, they're normally single, right? They're normally career driven. They normally have the pet, and things of that sort. But
deliver us from Eva vibe.
Exactly. There you go. We can go on and on and on, right?
Yeah.
So what about you that made you say, okay, well, you know what? I don't fit that mold, or maybe I did fit that mold early on, but now marriage is for me. What happened there?
It was definitely an evolution. I'd say, early, again, when I was just starting my career in my early 20s, I thought that I was ready for marriage right out of the gate. But I'm so happy that, as life would have it, it didn't happen until I was, after 30. I feel like knowing myself as an individual, and knowing myself, even on the professional side, being more financially secure independently, I feel like that has allowed me to bring a lot more to the table as a wife. It's always something that I've wanted. I feel like family is most important, period. It's always been something that I've valued, forever. But the marriage aspect is always something that I wanted, but I knew it had to be the right person first and foremost. The right person, and then at the right time.
Say that one more time.
It's got to be definitely the right person.
It's got to be the right person
at the right time, because I think a lot of people, they just want, maybe the title, or they like the idea of marriage. But if you're not going into it with someone who you consider to be, your best friend, then I think it makes things a lot more difficult, and it's a lot more challenging to find that person if you don't already have a good grasp on who you are. So I feel like everything came together right when it was supposed to, and yeah, it's been great so far. Of course, there's going to be ups and downs like there are in any relationship, but it's just nice to have that person. My girlfriend and I would call it our permanent BFFs to go through to go through life with.
I like it. And you know what? I myself, I did kind of the same thing. I waited into my 30s. Actually, I met my wife when I was, latter part of my 20s. But we didn't get married until, early part of my 30s. And, like you said, it's always challenges and it's always journeys, but there's no person that I would rather take that journey with. I think finances is something that breaks up a lot more marriages and causes a lot more, issues than another person. So. That's interesting that you said that. I'm glad.
My spiritual relationship has evolved over the years, but one concept that was always drilled in is that of being quote unquote equally yoked. And so really finding that person who, is aligned with you spiritually. You all have the same financial beliefs. You have the same values at a basic level. It helps make everything else so much easier. And if you start off with conflict in those areas, I'm not saying that you can't surmount it, but it might make for challenges for someone who you plan to be with for the rest of your life.
That's so true. That is so true. Awesome. Just enjoying this conversation so much. So we're just going to move right into the next topic. Are you okay with that? All right. So let's do it. All right. So again, I make my topics designed exactly around the person that I'm interviewing. So I titled this one, Being Comfortable in Your Own Skin. Do you feel that has hindered or helped your career? And the reason why I'm asking that is because I stand about 6'3", 6'4" when I wear shoes, right? And I've noticed and I've read, according to the Wall Street Journal, that about 60% of leaders, CEOs, and major companies are actually over 6'2", when society is only about 14% of the society is over 6 feet. So I feel like sometimes there are advantages that are awarded to me as far as being a leader and in learning and development. Do you feel like your appearance, do you feel that your height, because you're a taller woman as well, do you feel like that's hindered or helped you in any ways in your career? And we can go with both.
It's probably tilted on both sides of the scales, depending on, what the actual event was. So I'll say this. I think that being a woman, being a quote unquote attractive younger woman in a professional setting, it could be a double-edged sword. I recognize the privilege. Even in being a black woman, being a fair-skinned black woman, I definitely recognize the privilege in working in predominantly, white spaces, that could be biased in my favor at some points in time. So I think that it's maybe helped form a level of comfortability, potentially, in some spaces, from people who may not have as much interaction with black counterparts. I've definitely gotten the comment professionally and friend-wise of, I didn't know, what do you mix with? What, trying to ascribe something other than blackness to me, which is insulting, but telling. Working with other women, I am very much a girl's girl. I believe in women empowerment 100%. But sometimes it can go both ways. Like it could be, women have been my strongest advocates in my career. I've had wonderful peers, managers, etc. But there's also sometimes that inherent competitive element that comes into play, and we all come into situations with our own baggage, our own biases, and everyone has to deal with it. But it's definitely created some interesting scenarios with career progression. I'd say overwhelmingly, though, I've had wonderful relationships with colleagues, male and female, all races. I'm a military kid, so I'm used to interfacing with people from all walks of life, all sorts of backgrounds. But I won't be naive enough to say that I haven't had advantages and disadvantages from
I don't want to interrupt you because this is wonderful, because I don't think we have this conversation enough amongst us as a people. I understand those advantages, but also, again, I understand some of the disadvantages as well, of being, again, a darker skinned male, in an industry that, there's very few men that look like me. So there, like you said, it's weighted on both sides. I think I use your word again. I think it's that comfortability, that's awarded. I've gotten comfortable with it. I know who I am. I know who I want to be. So I present myself as Jerome. Right now it's Jerome Goodwin on the Millennial Curator Podcast, but when I'm in that business setting, I am Jerome Goodwin. So that's really cool. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, and there's in the spirit of diversity and inclusion, there is beauty to be found in across the spectrum. So it takes all communication styles, all short, tall, and all across the spectrum to really make everything as powerful as it can be. So we just kind of have to learn to appreciate each other's differences.
And that's why you lead that industry. So awesome. All right, so we're gonna move into our last topic. So this one, because again, titled it directly for the person that I am speaking with. This one is titled "Invest in Yourself." With you being in the financial services industry, I know that you have picked up some very helpful tips. We talked earlier about, you feeling comfortable now being married because you now have something to bring to the table. I myself have been in the financial services industry and the accounting world for some time now. And I have picked up some very helpful tips. And as far as us as a people, as far as us as a millennial, I don't think we had an opportunity to learn a lot about, we know about our 401ks, we know about our savings plans, but we don't really know a lot about like mutual funds and, 403B plans and, trusts for our kids and things like that. And I'm not asking you to give any financial services advice because I'm not going to give any financial services advice.
I can't do it anyway right now.
We can't do that anyway. We're not here for that. But what are some other opportunities and ways that you have set yourself up to invest in yourself to be successful in the future?
Speaking at a high level, I think I've definitely learned to prioritize. Of course, you have the bills that you have to get out of the way.
Right.
But I believe in setting goals, whether it be buying a house or having a certain amount in savings, whatever that is, put that out there. Make it very plain to yourself and to your spouse and do what it takes to get there. As far as from an investment perspective, if you have the familiarity, I think that discipline is a huge aspect as far as whatever plan you set forth for yourself. If you don't have the experience, I definitely recommend finding someone who does have the experience and working with a professional. I think there are a lot of people offering advice out there under the guise of being a financial professional, but don't really have the credentials. So just be very careful who you're taking that advice from. Do your due diligence. Check their references and don't just take advice from someone who has the appearance of being successful, but actually do a little bit more investigating in that regard, and make sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure. We all have to be cognizant if we're taking advice from, no matter what the situation is. I think the goal is always to set up the next generation to have it even better than you did. And I had a pretty great upbringing, not without challenges or whatever the case may be, but not very many complaints and not wanting for very many things. So I really want to set, my children up to be in a space where they don't have that financial burden and they're able to really just go into life without that as a factor.
Where do you see us? What do you see? What is your vision for us as Black millennials? Where do you see us headed? Do you think we're headed on the right course? Do you think that we are, diverting from our success? Where do you see us headed as far as millennials? And I'll give you my take first. How about that? I am optimistic. I am a very optimistic individual.
I'd say overwhelmingly, I'm optimistic as well. I join you in that. There's been a lot of challenges, and if we're speaking specifically to, Black millennials, there's been a lot of systemic challenges that the generations ahead of us have faced that still impact us today. But again, we get better and better with each generation. And I think there are a lot of us who are taking those new things that we learn and running with it. And like you said, surrounding ourselves with friends and peers and mentors and people who do have sort of a like-minded approach to life and taking advantage of opportunities, finding new ways to grow. There's never good without bad accompanying it, but overwhelmingly I see a lot of my peers and people around me really trying to do the right things and really doing some awesome things to make an impact in the world. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
Likewise. Awesome. Well, Lauren, I want to thank you, Lauren, LT, Mrs. Taylor, Riley. I want to thank you so much for, taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us on the Millennial Curator Podcast. I think we got some wonderful, beautiful gems that our listeners can, share and share with their families. But before we wrap up, is there any place that we could find you? If someone's listening to this podcast or someone's viewing us on IGTV, can they find you on Instagram? Can they find you on LinkedIn? Is there anything that you want to share with, hey, this is where you can find me?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and still under Lauren Taylor at this point. So catch me while you can. If not, it'll be under Lauren Taylor Riley. And Twitter as well, under Lauren B Taylor _ I had to remember what it was, but yes, that is it.
Awesome.
But I want to say thank you as well. Thanks for having me, and best wishes with this platform. I think it's awesome for you highlighting the voices of our generation. So keep doing wonderful things.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and thank you all so much for tuning in to the Millennial Curator Podcast. Hope you tune in for our next episode. Again, Lauren, thank you so much.